Hello students, how are you all today? I hope all of you are doing very fine. Still enjoying your lockdown holidays. And maybe I think most of you are awaiting the reopening of the colleges, because I know most of you are regular students and who enjoy your curricular and co-curricular activities at the college, and I do hope that the pandemic will soon pass and soon we will be able to come into the normalcy of college education, day-to-day college going and coming. So till then we'll have to do with these video lessons. So today we are going to see the part 3 of parts of speech. So in the series of parts of speech, it is the third part. In the first part we have discussed noun and pronoun. In the second part of the video second video we have discussed adjectives and adverbs. Today we are going to discuss exclusively about verbs. So what are verbs? How many types of verbs are there, and what are their uses in English language? So we are going to see these very important component of English grammar. And I also think that verb is most important of parts of speech. So that is why I chosen only one topic for the day, that we are going to see verbs. So I will try to make it as short and as simple as possible. That some students have said that the videos are lengthy and too much of information is being given in one session. So I will restrict myself to verbs and kinds of verbs today. So tomorrow we will see another, but today for this day we will see only verbs. Okay. So let us start our lesson. Verbs. What are verbs in a sentence? How do you define? How do you identify? Or how do you recognize verbs in a sentence? So simply, verbs are action words. They perform the action. They create the movement. They act in the sentence. They work as the bridge between subject and object. So without verb there is no sentence, we can say that. So without adjective or without adverb or without pronoun or without noun, there can be a sentence, but without verb you cannot make a complete meaningful sentence. So verb is that important. So verbs tell us what the subject of the sentence is doing. So verbs tell us what the subject of the sentence is doing. Okay. So this is, I think, unnecessary thing. We'll erase this. mark this. What the subject is doing, what the subject is performing. So they inform the action of the subject. So acting upon the object. Action acting upon the object if an object is present in the sentence. Or simply it tells us about the action of the subject. So let us see some simple sentences. The underlined, bolded and italics, you can identify them as verbs. I eat chocolate. Here I is subject, chocolate is object. So eat, the word eat is doing all the action there. It is filling the gap. What is what? What I is doing, what is being done on the chocolate, what is being done to the chocolate. So the chocolate is being eaten. I eat chocolate. So eat is the action word there. Similarly, he goes to school. He goes to school. Subject, object. The connection between them is the verb. He goes to school. He is a student. So here, don't think that there is no verb in the third sentence. Is also verb, helping verb. I have a bike. Here also have, it is a helping verb. So generally we'll understand and recognize the main verbs. Okay, eating, doing, going. So you can understand the main verbs of the sentence. But the confusion comes in recognizing the helping verbs. So there are many and there are categorized into many. So we will concentrate on those things today. Main verbs, we can easily do that. Next, transitive and intransitive verbs are there. Okay. So let us see, verbs are divided into two types: transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. So transitive verb. So you can see the definition, read it. A verb which must be followed by an object is called a transitive verb. What is a transitive verb? A verb that must be followed by an object. To give complete meaning to a sentence or to make a complete sentence, to make the sentence meaningful, to give a sense to the sentence, a verb must be followed by an object. So such verbs are called transitive verb. Okay. So see the definition again. A verb which must be followed by an object. So simply, if a verb comes, must come, then it is transitive verb. For example, Sujit met. Met is a verb here. Sujit is subject. Met is verb. So you can sense that, you can feel that something is missing there. It is not giving a complete picture. You are and you will ask, You are supposed to ask, and you will ask. Sujit met. You may ask, whom? Whom did Sujit meet? Who is he supposed to meet? Okay. Whom did Sujit meet? So here, as the pointer says, shows, this sentence is not complete without an object. There must be an object here, because without an object, met does not give any good sense, good meaning. So such words are called transitive. So Sujit met me. Sujit met me. Now it gives a complete sense, complete meaning. Sujit met whom? Sujit met me. Subject, verb, object. Subject, verb, and object. This is how transitive verbs work. So without an object, transitive word does not work properly. It does not give complete meaning. Okay. The sentence gives complete meaning when an object is added. Such verbs are called transitive verbs. Okay. Only and only when an object is added after them, they give a complete meaning. Such verbs are called transitive verbs. Example: he gave me an apple. He gave me an apple. They are wearing jackets. I watched the match. Murali tasted the cake. Rani heard a sound. So in all these sentences, we are tend to ask a question if the object is not found. If we did not give the object. For example, he gave. Here, if we cut the sentence here, he gave. What would you ask? What? What was that he gave you? So you must add an apple object. He gave me an apple. He gave me an apple. They are wearing. You ask what? I watched what? Match. So Murali tasted what? The cake. Rani heard what? A sound. So in each of these verbs, in each of these sentences, after the verb, an object is a must. So such verbs are called transitive verbs. What are they called? They are called transitive verbs. So now see intransitive verbs. Intransitive verbs. What are intransitive verbs? The verbs which do not need an object after them to give complete meaning. So subject and verb together can make an entire sentence meaningful. We can add object in these also, but it is not that necessary. Okay. For example, Raghu laughed. It's a complete sentence. Raghu laughed. Or the plane landed. The plane landed. Safely. Safely. You see? It's an adverb, not object. The plane landed. There is no object here. The plane landed safely. What is safely there? It's an adverb. The baby Slept. The baby slept. No need to ask any question there. You don't ask for an object there. Or you may ask the baby. You can add the baby slept peacefully. It will become adverb, not object. I cried. I cried painfully. Again, it's a adverb. You can add that, but you don't need an object. So, intransitive. These verbs are called intransitive. The verbs which do not need an object after them to give a complete meaning, to give a meaning. These are called intransitive verbs. So these verbs with subject before them can make a meaningful sentence. So such verbs are called intransitive verbs. Whereas transitive verbs need an object in the sentence or after the verb to make a complete meaningful sentence. Okay, we'll move on. Sometimes verbs act as transitive and intransitive depending on the situation, depending on their placement, and depending on the meaning. Sometimes they are followed by an object, or sometimes they are not. So verb is same, but sometimes it is transitive and sometimes it is not, depending on the situation or the type of sentence we are writing. For example, the glass fell down and broke. The glass fell down and broke. Here, you see, the word broke. This is a verb here. Okay. It fell down and broke. It doesn't need any it is an intransitive verb, and it doesn't need any object here after this. The glass fell down and broke. That's all. We understood the meaning. Hence it is intransitive. But here, if you use the same verb here, he broke. If you say he broke, you tend to ask what? What did he break? So you need to give this object. He broke the glass. This gives complete meaning. So it is transitive sentence. Now, next, another example. My sari caught on a nail and tore. Intransitive. Here, T-O-R-E, tore. It is intransitive verb. It doesn't need an object of that. The meaning in itself is meaningful without an object after this. But here, he tore my shirt. If you cut here, he tore. You will ask what did he tear? So you have to add an object. He tore my shirt. Thus it becomes a transitive verb. Next, after next we will go to helping verbs. We will go to helping verbs now. So what are helping verbs? So as their name suggests, helping verbs help the main verbs. They are placed generally in front of the main verbs and they help the main verb. For example, it is raining here. They are playing chess. She was staying with her parents. I do not like sweets. She has written to the commissioner. So, in the first sentence, it is raining here. Raining is the main verb. The word raining is the main verb here. But is, all these italicized, underlined words are helping verbs. Okay, main verb, helping verb. Here also, playing is, they are playing chess. Playing is the main verb and are is helping verb. Here she was staying with her parents. Staying is main verb and was is helping verb. Okay. Next, I do not like sweets. I do not like sweets. Here, like is main verb, but here I do not, don't, it becomes helping verb. Written, here also written becomes main verb, has becomes helping verb. So do you understand? All these words written in italics are helping verbs. Now we'll go into detail about understanding the helping verbs. So in the previous slide, in this slide, that means in this slide, you see the italics, the underlines, the bold letters, bold words. So those italicized words are called auxiliary verbs. What are they called? Auxiliary or helping verbs. We can call it in both ways. Auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. They combine with main verbs in the continuous and present tenses, perfect tenses, in negative sentences and in questions. So when do they come? So when do we need auxiliary verbs or helping verbs? We need them in continuous and perfect tenses. Maybe it is present perfect or past perfect, or present continuous, past continuous, or future continuous, and in negative sentences and in questions. So to make all these above mentioned three situations, we need helping verbs. Sometimes we don't need helping verbs, like as I told you in the first, not this, but first, I eat chocolate. Okay, I eat chocolate. In that lesson, in that sentence, eat is the main verb. There is no helping verb. The kite flies in the sky. The kite flies in the sky. Fly, it is the main verb. It doesn't have any helping or auxiliary verbs to help it. So such verbs are called finite verbs. Finite verbs which do not need helping verbs. Okay. Now where are we? Yes. So helping verbs are again categorized into three groups. So helping verbs are again categorized into three groups. They are primary helping verbs, modal helping verbs, and semi-modal helping verbs. So listen to me carefully. These are all the categories of helping verbs, only helping verbs, not main verbs, only helping verbs. What are they? Primary helping verbs, modal helping verbs, or semi-modal helping verbs. So helping verbs can also be called as auxiliary verbs. Don't get confused. Helping verbs or auxiliary verbs, both are same. Okay, don't get confused with the name. So primary helping verbs. So again, primary helping verbs are divided into categories, three categories. Again, actually in the first place, helping verbs are categorized into three. In the first category of primary helping verbs, again it is they are categorized into three. So there are three types. What are they? Be, do, and have. Do, be verbs, do verbs, and have verbs. So generally we call them be forms, do forms, have forms. Okay. So be verbs are used. When are they used? Be verbs are used to make continuous sentences. Be verbs are used to make continuous tenses. Continuous tenses. He is walking in the park. He is walking in the park. Here, is. You see, is the primary helping verb. Is, this comes under B category, B form. It is primary helping verb. Walking is main verb. So what is the speciality? It is a continuous tense. It is present continuous. He is walking in the park. Next, was. I was reading the paper. Past continuous tense. This is past continuous. He will be coming. This is future continuous. He will be coming. Okay. So primary helping verbs, three types. Then first category is be forms. So they are used in continuous tenses. And again, to make passive sentences. So what are they again used for? Be forms. Be forms are again used for passive sentences, to make passive statements. Students are being taught. They were being given treatment. Okay, students are being taught. What do you mean by passive? Where the subject is being acted upon. Subject is being acted upon. Subjects are not performing any action. They are being acted upon by others. So such sentences are called passive sentences. So be forms are used in passive sentences also. Students are being taught. They were being given. Next, second category inside primary helping verbs, have forms. So when are they used? To make perfect tenses. I have finished my homework. He had come to meet me. So generally have and had. Have form means have and had. I have finished my homework. He had come to meet me. So these come under. Next, Third category of primary helping verbs are do forms. They are helped to make negatives. I do not like watching TV. So it is do. It is paired with not, and it is forming negative. I don't like watching TV. Here, did, it is also a do form. Again, it paired with not, and he did not come here. It doesn't work, does not or doesn't. And these are also used to ask questions, these verbs. Do you need any help? Did they go to college? Does it work? So all these are do forms, do verbs. They are used to make negative sentences, and they are used to, we use them in making questions, in asking questions. Next, to show emphasis. So do forms are again used to show emphasis, to make stress, to make the point, to emphasize something, to stress something. We use I do want to come with you. So generally what do you say? I want to come with you. When you want to stress it, when you want to emphasize it, you say I do want to come with you. I do accept my mistake. You can say I accept my mistake, no problem. But when you want to stress it, when you want to emphasize, you say I do accept my mistake. She did complain about the facilities. She's here again emphasizing. She complained about the facilities, also okay. It makes sentences, but there to add emphasis to the sentence, as if somebody asked, did she complain? She did complain about the facilities. So sometimes to stand with the main verb, in sentence. Raj drives his car faster than, you can see, Ravi does. Okay, sometimes to help the main verb it is used. Where are we? Did we miss anything? To make passive sentences, do forms are used to make negatives. Yeah, I think it's over. Next, modal helping verbs. The second category of helping verbs after primary helping verbs are modal helping verbs. We use modal helping verbs to modify the meaning of main verb some way. So modal verbs are used, we use these modal verbs to modify the meaning of the main verb in some way. Not entirely, but with the help of modal helping verbs, we modify the meaning of the main verb. A modal helping verb expresses necessity or possibility. Okay, listen to this, mark this. So what do they express? Necessity or possibility. For example, when it is necessity, you must go there, you should go there. They express necessity. Possibility, he may come, they might have gone. These are possibilities. There are 10 modal helping verbs. So how many modal helping verbs are there? 10 again. So first, can and could. Can and could. So very simple. As it has been told by the definition, they express necessity or possibility, compulsion, maybe. I can do this. I can climb the wall. You are telling your condition that you are confident. When you are confident at something, you will use can. I can do this. I can pass the exam. I can come. I can climb the mountain. Okay. Can. Could. You could come with me. So it is like giving permission. You could come with me. Next, may and might. These two express the possibility. May, might express the possibility. You may go now. For example, if say you can go now. You can go. You may go. In this, you can go, there is certainty. You are certain. You are asking him to go. You are permitting him to go. Or he is eligible to go. But it is just a possibility. You may go. Or you may not go. He might not be able to come. It is not certainty here. It is just possibility. May, might. So we express possibility using may and might. So some kind of certainty, not entirely, but can and could, can, especially can be used to give certainty in the sentence. Next, will and would. Will and would. Will you come? I will come. Would you like to? I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you. Again, it is not possibility, but it is also certainty. Will. I will come. That means I will definitely come. I will come to you. I may come. It is possibility. Or I can come. That means your efficiency to come there. Shall, should. So you should read the book. You shall not steal. Shall is generally used in rules, making rules that they should be obeyed. Thou shalt not steal, as in 10 commandments. Shall is used generally to make rules that we must obey, that must be obeyed. You shall not come to my home. You shall not steal. Should is you should read the book. Asking him to do something compulsorily. You should read the book. Next, the must. It is the highest of certainty. You must go now. That means no other choice. You must go now means complete you must obey this. It's like an order. You must come here. You must pass the exam. Otherwise, you don't have future. You must pass the exam. Otherwise, you don't have the exam. You don't have future. Ought to. She ought to win the match. It is also again expressing certainty, not possibility. Next, semi-modal verbs. These are partly like helping verbs and partly like main verbs. These are again three types. There are three, not three types, but there are only three. Need, dare, used to. You need to see this. Okay. You should know how to use these words. You need to see this. You dare not ask your boss. I used to go to school by bus. So generally, this word, I used to. This is used generally to describe the past situations. Maybe it is about your past tense. Yes, about past life. I used to go to college when I was in my graduation. So past continuous tense can be the things in past continuous tense, they can be expressed using I used to go to. I used to go to college. I used to go to temple regularly when I was in Hyderabad. So dare. You dare not ask your boss. Need. You need to see this. You need to complete your homework today. It's a need. Dare. It's about your courage. You dare not ask your boss. So these are semi-modal verbs. So I think this is our chapter or our session about verbs. I think a very little session. So if we want to elaborate, we can elaborate it to a great length. Verbs can be taught in a lengthy session, but considering your time, your patience, and your mobile data, availability of network and internet, I think I will conclude at this. Okay. Do watch the videos and try to learn the basics of English grammar. And the next section will be the fourth part of parts of speech. Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.